Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are going to go ahead and jump back into time because we are going to take a look at an older figure here, and not just an older figure, I would say probably one of the more iconic dinosaur figures that probably has ever existed. This is the Disney's Dinosaur larger electronic Carnotaurus, and it is a figure that many people have in their collection. And it's obvious why. Look at this thing. It is huge, and it is a massive, awesome-looking Disney's dinosaur-style Carnotaurus. I would say the overall look and feel of Disney's Dinosaur is probably one of the most popular visuals for a Carnotaurus because it's one of the very few Carnotaurus that so many people are aware of. You know, not everybody knows of this dinosaur, but most people know of Disney's Dinosaur. So you probably have already seen this gigantic version of the Carnotaurus, of course, in the film, but also in toy form. And considering it is so huge, it straight away is extremely impressive. But honestly, the sculpt of this is also really impressive because I think for its time, it is very well sculpted. You know, there is definitely a lot of very nice detail to it. And even though I wouldn't say it's absolutely perfectly screen accurate, like it doesn't look like it just crawled out of the screen here, it's very close. Like it really does look pretty much just like the Carnotaurus does on screen. So without further ado, let's jump to a closer look and check it out from there. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our Carnotaurus, you can see again the skin texture is pretty darn decent for what it is. Like when you get nice and close and really look at the actual skin of the figure, it's really well done. There's definitely a lot of nice detailing throughout, a lot of variation to the scales. You can see the nostrils sculpted out right there. You can also see the ears sculpted out, which is really cool. The horns as well sport some pretty decent detail to them. You can see though that there is kind of an awkward metallic shine to this, and it is something that you see quite often on these older Disney's dinosaur figures, even though I don't know that I would say that the Carnotaurus from the film had kind of a metallic shine, but a lot of the figures, a lot of the toys from the line did feature that. Weirdly enough, though, you can see this area doesn't really have the metallic shine, but then when you move to the lower jaw, it does, which is strange. But you can see, again, the scale detail down here also looks quite nice. We can see the eyes painted very nicely with a variation of a brown and then a big black pupil. And we do have an articulated jaw. I don't want to open this too wide because it does kind of have like a sound and stuff that will occur if I do, but you can see the teeth are all kind of sculpted together. I think the mouth and the teeth are like the biggest setback for this figure when it comes to how good it looks. I feel like those areas are one of the very few negatives for this because it just doesn't really look that great. The teeth are all kind of jumbled together. They don't look that great. Obviously, you can see the paint on mine is a little nicked up, but it's not too bad. You'll also notice that there's not a whole lot in the way of detail on the inside of the mouth. So again, that's kind of common for figures back in this time. But you can see that there is a pinkish tone in there, at least. If you can sneak a peek in there, there is a tongue sculpted out in there, though it's a little hard to really see. But as you start to move back into the neck of the Carnotaurus, again, look at how good the scales and everything look on this. They really pop quite nicely. You can see that the ridges that move along the course of the body and the osteoderms that move along the course of the body, for the most part, all painted out with, again, a metallic sort of silverish tone, which you do see that metallic tone on the horns as well. But as you continue to move back, you can see some nice wrinkling and creasing in the skin, basically moving down the course of the neck. You can see some decent detail here in the throat as well. Again, we pick up this metallic tone very abruptly. It's not a smooth transition. You can see from this area here where it doesn't have that kind of metallic look to here, it's just an instant transition to it. But as you move down into the body, you can see that the lower part of the Carnotaurus now basically is overtaken with that silver tone. And as we move back up here toward the back, we have more of like that. It's like a variation of like a pinkish tone, basically, that we see over the back of the Carnotaurus. One thing that is good about the metallic tone, though, is for one, the figure really stands out, and two, it really does help the detail to shine quite nicely, which you can see as you kind of skim over the figure here. Look at it, you can see the detail does look really good. Moving down into the arm, you can see the arm looks okay. Obviously, not exactly an accurate arm sculpt for a Carnotaurus, but when it comes to the Disney's Dinosaur version, I think it looks alright, I guess. As you move down, though, the skin does look a little awkward, I think, in the arm. It does look kind of strange. There's also some ridges here coming off of the back of the elbow. We do still have that metallic tone. There are nails, which Carnotaurus actually didn't have fingernails, but you can see they are unpainted. And when I say they're unpainted, basically the metallic tone is the coloration of everything. So, I mean, they're kind of painted, but they don't have any separate color compared to the arms, or at least mine doesn't. If it did, it's worn off now. But you do have articulation in the arms. You can move the arms forward and back, which is always fun. The figure also has kind of a softer feel in some areas, like in the neck. It almost has like a rubbery reel feel. And then moving down into the body, even though it is a harder material, you can still kind of squish it a little bit. But then as you lead out into the tail, it definitely has that softer rubber reel feel to it, which is nice. One area, though, that does not are the legs. The legs definitely are a very hard kind of plastic material. There's no squishiness there. But as you move down the legs, you can see the skin texture looks okay. Again, a little generic, similar to what we see in the arms. I don't think it's quite as nice as what we see through the rest of the body, but it looks all right for what it is. You can make out the muscle definition and everything, though. But as you move down, you can see the knee, and I think the detail picks up the further down into the leg you get. Like as you lead into the calf, which you can see a big bulging calf muscle, the detailing, the skin texture looks a lot more impressive there. As you move down, you see all of the scoots picking up on the front of the feet, and the foot sculpt I think actually looks really good on the figure. You do have a different tone of color for the nails down here, which is a plus. You can see even the detailing of the nails looks good, as we've got some nice cracks and crevices in that area, and the scales again on the sides of the feet and everything does look really nice. You can see we do also have dew claws sculpted, and they do appear to be painted, which is a huge plus. And then we move up into the tail, and again, as we lead out, I already said that this is more of like a rubber tail, so you can kind of move it and flex it, which is really fun. And then you, of course, have the coloration that we've had through the rest of the body, but now without the metallic tones. We have like a brown for the lower part, and then the pinkish tones for the upper side. And I feel like, although it kind of has a metallic shine the further out into the tail you get, actually, but for the most part, I think it looks better out here in the tail than it does through the rest of the body, because that shine that it has going on isn't my first choice as far as these figures go. Like, I'm not a huge fan of that kind of shininess that a lot of them have. But if you look over here again at the other side, it looks pretty much the same. Of course, with it being an articulated figure, you're not really going to see much in the way of difference from one side to the other. Obviously, you do have leg articulation, which is very squeaky, but works pretty decent. Again, only forward and back. That's really about it. So it does have articulation, but it is a little limited. Still, again, a super, super cool Carnotaurus. One of the other negatives for this figure, outside of the jaw area, the teeth and all of that stuff, is the fact that it doesn't really stand too well. In fact, I've never been able to get my Carnotaurus to stand unless I'm propping it up on its tail, so it's more of like in a tripod position. But this is one of those situations where that awesome theropod stand from the Beasts of the Mesozoic comes into play, because as you can see, it works perfectly for other figures. Again, this is for the large figures. So if you do have this Carnotaurus and you want a nice stand to use to prop this one up, the large stand from the Beasts of the Mesozoic theropod figures goes a long way when it comes to displaying this Carnotaurus. But as far as a size goes, it's very, very large. For a length from the snout to the tail, about 22, approaching 22 and a half inches, or around 50, I'd say a little hair over 57 centimeters. And then for a height, the highest point would be the back of the neck, and that's, of course, currently in this position. You could have it stand up much taller, about 10 inches, or around 25, approaching 25 and a half centimeters. For a size comparison, as you can see with Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect A human being next to our Carnotaurus, the Carnotaurus is huge, no doubt about that. It is definitely a very large figure, and I think you can really see that here with all of these other figures next to it. To continue to give you an idea of how large the Carnotaurus is, here is a Mattel T-Rex. This is an extreme damage T-Rex next to the Carnotaurus, which you can see the Mattel Rex is significantly smaller, definitely showing you that this is a very big Carno. And if we actually bring in a Mattel Jurassic World Carnotaurus next to the Disney's Dinosaur Carnotaurus, you can see that the Jurassic World version of the Carnotaurus is a lot smaller. This is one that I repainted, but this is the original release of the Jurassic World Carnotaurus. So if you do have that Carnotaurus in your collection, you're very clearly going to see the Disney's Dinosaur version is a lot larger. And then we've also got the Mattel Epic Roarin' T-Rex next to the Carnotaurus. Now here you can see the epic roaring T-Rex is very similar in size to the Carnotaurus. So if you do have the kind of like larger versions of the Mattel Tyrannosaurs, because they usually have like the extreme damage or extreme chomp in size range, then they've also got the larger ones like the Thrash and Throw, and obviously the epic roaring version here. You can see that the epic roaring, like that second size range of Mattel Jurassic World T-Rex, are pretty much the same size as this Carnotaurus. I don't really know what else to compare with this one. It's kind of a tough call because it is such a large figure, but I think the best comparison I could give you is probably with this Mattel T-Rex. Now we've dimmed the lights a little bit here so I can show you the very cool action feature. As you can see, once you press on the side of the neck here, there's like a little button that kind of activates the mouth opening, and we get some sound effects as well as light up eyes. Seems like we've only got 2 sound effects possibly for our Carnotaurus, but we'll get a shot from the front here. Well, if I can find the button now from over here, there we go. Definitely really cool. Again, obviously not the most exciting action feature in the world, but still a pretty neat one. So this Disney's Dinosaur electronic Carnotaurus is honestly one of my favorite Carnotaurus figures I think I have in my collection. Not because it's the most fun figure to play with or anything like that. Not because it's the best sculpted dinosaur figure ever, but because it is just so iconic, and it's also huge. Like, what's better than a massive version of the Disney's Dinosaur Carnotaurus? I can't think of too many things, but then again, I'm also a little biased because I am a massive Carnotaurus fan. But I think overall the figure's really well done. They did a very good job on the sculpt and fine detail throughout. A few areas are a little iffy, like the texturing in the arms and the thighs aren't really that great, but past that point, I would say the detailing throughout is very nicely done, except for inside the mouth and the teeth. That area is a little bit ugly, and the way the lower jaw connects is kind of awkward looking. But again, this is at a time where, you know, dinosaurs didn't really have all that much articulation. You had like the Jurassic Park stuff, but there's not that many articulated dinosaurs back then. So again, articulated jaws from time to time did look a little wonky, and we do have that same wonky look here with the jaw on this one. Regardless, the sculpt again looks great past those things that I mentioned. The paint is pretty nicely done, basically represents and replicates the coloration that you do see on the Disney's Dinosaur Carnotaurus. Obviously, there's a little more color that could have been added, but this is a toy. I don't expect the most perfect paint job. Again, the metallic tones are a little awkward. I'm not really sure what the reasoning was for using it, but I would have preferred it just didn't have the metallic coloration at all. But regardless, the coloration looks pretty decent as far as its application, fairly smooth transitions and stuff. I also like the action feature. I like that it has a jaw snapping action feature. I like the light up eyes. And even though the articulation isn't incredible, it's decent for what it is. I also love the fact that it does have some rubber areas, giving you kind of like that real feel, which I always am going to have a soft spot for. And some okay sound effects. The sound effects aren't great, but they're alright for what they are. Regardless, it is a giant Disney's Dinosaur Carnotaurus. How could you not absolutely love it? If you are interested in grabbing one for yourself, the best place to look is on eBay. I see them quite often, and they're not usually all that expensive, so you should be able to snag one from there. So again, make sure you check around eBay, Mercari, all of those places, maybe even Facebook Marketplace. Good luck on finding one and adding it to your collection. I definitely recommend doing that, and of course, like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.